Hey Megan.
Hey Don, how you doing? Good to
Yeah,
see you.
it's good to see you. How you been?
I've been really good. How you been?
Really well, thanks. And thanks for doing this too. I appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Anytime. Happy to have you on the show. You were on with us, I think about maybe 6 months ago, eight months ago, right before you were going to the
I was
music.
parked outside of Music Hairs. Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah, of
Nice.
course.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was so kind of you to like make a moment for us before you did
Uh,
such a
that
big
was fun.
deal thing.
Yeah.
How did that event go for you?
Oh, I loved it, man. There was some moment. I just last night. I watched a YouTube thing of our acoustic trio with John Mayer and Jeff Clementi doing Terrapin.
Oh
So it's
wow.
just string bass, acoustic guitar with John singing and Jeff playing piano, which was a ballsy call for John.
Yeah.
And it was great. I'm as proud of that as probably anything I've ever done. It came out really cool.
Wow, that's cool. So we
Yeah.
can check it out on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't even know that happened. What a
yeah,
fun thing. I love a trio to begin with, but yeah,
yeah,
you, Jeff, and John doing Terrapin, sign me
yeah.
up. I'm into
Good.
it. Nice, nice. Well, we're back to talk about your wonderful Pan Detroit ensemble who's coming back to
Yeah,
Space in Evanston in October,
yeah,
October 10th.
yeah. Yeah, no, space has been, we've played there more than any place else on Earth.
That's
And
cool.
and the audiences have all been great. And it's kind of like a home base for us. They really took a chance on us before anyone thought we could sell any tickets or anything. They booked us in there, and every time we've gone, it's been really nice. So I'm looking forward to this one. I'm trying to figure out what to do differently so that people don't see the same show again. One of the things that came up for this tour was the last show is something called the Golden Road Festival, which is in Beaufort, Georgia. It's a resort, and it's a like a getaway weekend for deadheads, and very small. It's like maximum of 400 people, and
Oh,
you hang. It's really nice because it gives you a chance to hang out with the fans, which I never get to do. We play these shows and we get back on a bus and we're gone. Especially with Bobby. We're gone the minute after. And I love the audience, but I never get to meet any of them. So at this festival, we'll get to hang out a little bit. And one of the things they asked us to do was they asked if we could learn Blues for Allah, the whole album.
wow.
So we're going to work it up. And maybe we should do that in Chicago, do one of those two shows. I'm wondering if we say I think we're playing two shows that night.
Yep, you're playing early and late. That's actually not a
Yeah.
bad idea, Don.
All right, you know something? We're gonna make the late show a test run for Blues for Allah. Okay.
I
To be
love
the world premiere of it. That's
it.
good.
In real time.
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
making plans. That's what we got
Yeah.
to do.
All right, that's the plan. All right.
We did it.
Let the word go forth.
I love that. So the Pan Detroit Ensemble is playing this Golden Festival, and you guys have to learn that whole album.
Yeah, it's the week after we play in Chicago. So we'll run it down in Chicago. We're going to rehearse it. We're going to practice in September for it,
Cool.
and then we're going to Japan right after that. Uh,
Nice.
I don't know if Blues for Allah registers in Japan.
You never know. People in
You never
love
know.
so much music, you never know. Like, this is our favorite thing.
Yeah, it might. Well, we're going to find out.
We're gonna find out. That's a cool idea. I like that. I mean, when you have two shows at a place, sometimes you can mix it up so that you
Yeah,
get people can go to both shows that way too.
yeah,
They see the
yeah,
original music and then they
yeah,
see maybe something that you're covering.
yeah.
You weren't always a Deadhead though, right? You weren't always into the Grateful Dead and
Not to the point where I could tell you the difference between 1978 and 1990, which is a
right.
huge difference, but I can now. I went to see him early on in the 70s, like 72, I think, in Detroit. They played at the Easttown Ballroom.
Okay.
It might have been earlier than that even, but it was sometime around there. And, I was a jazz guy, right? But I could tell, I knew what they were doing. I knew oh, I see, this has got rock and roll beats and rock and roll modes and scales and everything, but they're essentially doing what Miles Davis is doing, which is you take the framework of a song and you approach it really in a fresh beginner's mind every night and just take an adventure with it. So I appreciated that, uh, and how they were expanding the improvisational vocabulary into rock and roll, which was still a kind of new idea at that time. Uh, and no one did it like them, that's for sure. So I dug them always, but I'll be honest with you, uh, I didn't fully understand the allure of the songs until I started playing them with the Wolf Brothers, with Bobby.
Mhm.
And really, till I started seeing the audience's reaction to it. I could see their faces. I saw what lines they responded to. And then I started looking at, all right, why does everyone cry during Ripple? What's going on? I was touched by how deeply engaged the audience was, but I didn't fully understand it. And then I started getting into the magic of the lyrics and Hunter's work and Barlow's work, and uh, and also harmonically how adventurous the music was. And playing it night after night with Bobby and going in there with this sense of adventure every night. And it wasn't adventure like in the name of musical hedonism. It was an adventure in um, the path to uh, interpreting the songs in a fresh way. That was something that was probably the foremost principle of the Wolf Brothers. Really, it was kind of stay out of Bobby's way and let him tell these stories uh, in a fresh way, not by rote, but find a new way into these stories every night. And man, it's nuanced, but once you understand the universe contained in the nuance, he was doing remarkable stuff every night. He'd blow my mind every single night because he would find just a new way to phrase a line that gave it some other meaning. And he's like a jazz musician, like Miles, like jazz singers. I mean, always fresh. The one principle of the band was whatever you do, play anything but the same thing you played last night. Because you can guarantee that everybody else is going to be somewhere else. So you will be left behind, in a self-indulgent haze if you try to repeat that. So that's a principle we try to apply to the Pan Detroit Ensemble as well, which is just, yeah, the songs have a structure and a form, and we sort of know where the root where the area is to stretch them out, but we it's totally different every time we play it.
That's inspiring. That's really inspiring to be able to, stretch things out and make them new. Bobby's been doing it for how long with those songs that those people
Yeah,
are still feeling. They're
yeah,
crying, they're in Ripple, they're
yeah,
exulting during Terrapin and screaming
yeah,
together. Like,
yeah.
so I think that's a huge thing to take from Grateful Dead and that world is that you can stretch this stuff out, you can improvise, and you can keep it fresh from one show at 7, the next show at 9 to
Right.
you're right. You'll leave people behind if you're doing what you did yesterday.
That's right. That's right. And you know, when Bobby called me to do Wolf Brothers, one of the first things that struck me was I, I want to learn how to I want to learn to be as fearless as him on stage. To be able to just take a leap, man, just jump off the cliff and hope you land on your feet. But to be willing to do that, and to be willing to just take musical risks. And man, two or three times a night with Bobby, man, we will have a total train wreck. We try to do something and it doesn't come off. It's like skateboarders. We try a flip and we fall. But the audience doesn't care because they understand that we're trying to we're going for something for them, to give them a fresh show every night. And so they love it when it falls. They appreciate the effort that went into it. And when it connects, man, you can blow the roof off the place. That's what you live for, is when it connects and then the energy comes back and then you give it back, and it's a cyclical thing that starts spinning faster and faster. And it's a spiritual moment. So that was that was the allure of playing with Bobby. And and it's nice to be able to bring that to other music as well, which is what we're doing in Pan Detroit. Everyone is kind of working from that principle.
I love that. Not being afraid to fall and taking those risks.
Yeah.
And the audience is there with you because they know that out of those falls, you're going to get some magic. You just have to kind of try. Got to put it
Yeah.
out.
You
Yeah.
got you got to take the shot. And I think most audiences would prefer it rather than you play with the tape in the background and you do the same exact show every single night. And I mean, you can do it, but it's a drag for musicians, and I don't think it's as exciting for the audience.
Not at all. I think you're right. And I think that there are times when we see our favorite artists, maybe like you said, have a train wreck or have something happen.
Yeah.
But most of the time we don't really notice. It's all you guys noticing and being in your head about it. But
Yeah.
it's okay because we want to see what comes from that. And
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing because you being a record producer, doing that for so long and then deciding to want to do your own music, you have talked about how it took you a couple years to get comfortable with your
Yeah.
own self, right? And how to
Yep.
know how to be, embrace yourself as a musician. Um, Tell us about that journey and how it took you a minute to like
Yeah, sure.
make your own voice.
Well, somewhere around the early 90s, things started, the dice started rolling it in my direction. And in a very short period of time, I got to work with all of my heroes, the people who I felt were like the best writers, Bob Dylan, uh, Mick and Keith, Willie Nelson, Kris Kristofferson, Brian Wilson, all within a couple of years. The end result of that was every time I sat down at the piano to write a song, I would just think, well, what is the point of this, man? Brian Wilson is just down the street. Send him the lyric and let him write something. Like so. I I was very intimidated by how how gifted these heroes were. It wasn't they weren't heroes by chance. They're really good. Uh, they're tapping into something different. So about 5 years, I couldn't do anything really except produce other people. And then I was sitting in the studio with Willie one day, and I again just bemoaning the fact, man, I am never going to be as good at this as he is. I just don't have the thing he's got. But then it hit me, yeah, but he can't be you. He didn't drop acid and go see the MC5 at the Grandy Ballroom in 1967. George Clinton didn't play a sock hop at his junior high school, which the Parliaments did play a sock hop at my junior high school. You know, Willie Nelson didn't go down to the Drome Lounge in Detroit and hang out in the alley hoping to hear a little bit of Coltrane coming through the windows because he was too young to get into the bar, right? And so I thought, all right, you can't be him, but he can't be you. Just be yourself, man. The thing that makes you different from everybody else is not a marketing problem. It's your superpower.
Mhm.
So play to that, which is why when it came time to put a band together, I went to Detroit and hooked up with 9 people who listened to the same radio stations that I did and who went to see the same live music and who played in the same bars and everything that I did. I was I was actually surprised at how quickly this band developed a sound. Like within the first hour, there was a sound of the first rehearsal. There it was like, wow. We were just going to play one gig. We got Terrence Blanchard hired us to play uh, one night in a series that he was doing for the Detroit Symphony about Detroit jazz. So we were just putting a band together for the sake of playing that show. And after about an hour, it was clear, no, there's a level of communication going on here that probably shouldn't be happening. And then we got an extremely fortunate blending of characters together. So this is now like the fourth tour we've done, the tour coming up in October.
That's wonderful. You
Yeah,
guys seem to really, when I saw you guys at Space last run, you guys
yeah,
really gel. You guys are really listening and you're really
yeah,
passing it to each other back and forth and
yeah,
allowing each person to speak their own musical language. And
yeah.
it's really special. And it's something different. Like, we know Chicago blues, right? And that's what
Mhm.
people think come from Chicago, but there's all sorts of different things. And
Sure.
it's kind of amazing to see what's coming from Detroit, because you guys have all these influences, but you
Mhm.
also like were raised by, Iggy Pop and the
Yeah,
Parliaments and
yeah,
MC5. You know,
yeah,
you mentioned that. I think that we go to school, right? And we may not go through all of our schooling or whatever, which I didn't totally, but
that's
you know,
that's two of us. Yeah.
you understand. But I think you learn other ways, and I find it really interesting about you. You've referenced the whole Pharoah Sanders dropping acid with MC5,
Right.
seeing them. What did you learn from that? Because I've taken a few trips myself, and I've learned a lot more than I ever learned in school. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? So what was that like, and how old were you?
I was a teenager. I was in high school.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine dropped out of high school, and a guy named Joel Landy moved downtown, and he ran the printing press for the underground paper, the Fifth Estate. And John Sinclair had his anti-war organization next door, and his political arm. And so Joel was running the printing presses for him. And one night, it wasn't everybody from the MC5. I know Wayne was there. I can't remember everybody. And some of the guys from Pharoah Sanders band they were playing in town, they were jamming. And I went down and heard that, man, and I never heard anything like it before in my life or subsequently.
Oh, that's a
And
very special.
and what that struck me as is, well, man, that's a virtue, man, to be able to make something that no one's ever heard before. That's like something to aspire to. One time, I became friendly with Leon Russell later in his life. Played on one of that Elton John record that he did with Elton, and at one point he was making a record for Blue Note, in fact. Um, and I remember asking him, so what's the difference between making records now, which is like in the early 2000s, or making records in the 50s and 60s, which is when he started. He started playing sessions for like he was on Sinatra sections in the 50s as a pianist. And he said that back in those days, in the 1960s, if you handed in your record and someone at the record company said, "Oh, I love this. This reminds me of like the Everly Brothers meets, the Strawberry Alarm Clock," those were fighting words, man. For someone to say it reminded them of something else, your original music, you could, you could punch your A&R guy out for making a crack like that. But by the time the 90s rolled around, if you couldn't say, "Oh, this is a cross between Mariah Carey and Bush," then you were a marketing problem, which I thought was very interesting. So I learned from that and learned from that experience I had being intimidated by Willie and Brian and Dylan and everybody. And uh, I've always tried to convey that to artists, whether I'm producing them or whether they're artists that we signed to Blue Note. It's be yourself, man. Your only prayer is to be the best possible version of yourself. And whatever it is that makes you different from everybody, exaggerate that. Put the stress on that because that it's your superpower. So it kind of runs against conventional wisdom. But really, if you take a step back and look at all the music that really endures decade after decade after decade, who was Thelonious Monk like? Who was Prince like? Who who was Brian Wilson like? Man, nobody, you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you understand what the foundations of their music are. You understand that Brian Wilson started by putting Chuck Berry and the Four Freshmen together in a hybrid. But look where he took it, man. Nobody ever did that, and he did it first. That sound didn't exist till he dreamt it up. And he dreamt it up in a day when you couldn't use a sampler to get the sound of a harpsichord. You had to call someone down at the studio to play the harpsichord. And if you wanted something, a clarinet to double that, you had to have the foresight to call the clarinetist to come down, and you had to teach them the part together. So uh, anything that stands the test of time goes against the grain of fashion. Transcends fashion. Sometimes you connect with fashion, and then you can ride that wave into something new. But I think that's a lesson, and I think it pertains to more than just music too. Music's just metaphorical for other things in life. That's why people dig it so much. They can they can see their whole lives in the way music plays out.
100%. Thank you for that. That's a really good insight. And I think you're right. When I interview bands or I talk to bands and they're like, what do you sound like? It's really hard nowadays for anybody to kind of put themselves in a box. It's like,
Yeah,
well, we're 70% this, a little bit of
yeah,
that, a lot of
yeah,
this. And I think that's a beautiful thing because you're right. We have these influences in life, in music, of course, that inspire us. But then what can we take from those ideas and then
yeah,
make our own, which
yeah.
obviously you've done. You talk about all these at one point, the dice were rolling for you, and you've got all these musicians and like your heroes. How did you deal with that when it first happened? I mean, now it's probably easy, but like when it first started, I'm sure you were a bit starstruck and like, how do you act cool without freaking out and being like, you're my favorite?
Well, I can tell you the story that was the turning point if you want to hear it.
I would love that. Yeah.
I was producing Bob Dylan, and he called George Harrison to come in and play a guitar solo on a record. It's an overdub to a track that we'd already cut. It's called Under the Red Sky. So George comes in, and I'd never met George Harrison before. Uh, I don't think, well, if it wasn't for Bob Dylan and the Beatles, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. I'd be doing something else back in Detroit, I think. So I had these two heroes, and we're walking into the room to start recording, and George Harrison said, "Now, don't do what Bob did to me last time, which is he only gave me one pass at a solo, and it wasn't good, but he wouldn't let me do a second one." I said, "Yeah, all right, fine, yeah, you take your time." But Bob overheard, right? So it was playful, it was jocular, and they had a real nice relationship. But it was definitely like Bob was an older brother or something like that to George. And so Bob sits down in the engineer's chair with the remote control for the tape machine, and he's running the tape machine now. So he advances to where the solo is in the song, and then he says to George, "Okay, play." And he hits record. And George has never heard the song, has not tuned his guitar, nothing, man. We just knew that there was signal. That's as far as we got. He didn't know what key it was in. So he plays the solo. And, I mean, for not knowing anything, it was pretty great, but I knew he could do better than that. And Bob hits stop button. He says, "Great, man. That's perfect. Thank you." Just messing with him, right? And
Right.
George Harrison got this panicked look on his face, and he turned to me and said, "Well, what do you think, Don?" And then Bob goes, "Yeah, what do you think, Don?"
Oh my gosh.
So, so I'm looking at these two guys, and I like it's like time kind of slowed down, and I remembered a, a time when I tried to sell my car so that I could buy a ticket to New York and to the concert for Bangladesh so I could see these two guys from up in a balcony somewhere. And now the concert for Bangladesh is asking me, "What do you think, man?"
No way. Oh my gosh.
So it was like, it really like, it probably only took a couple of seconds, but it felt like an eternity. And finally, a voice appeared in my head. This is 100% true. And the voice said, "He's not paying you to be a fan." So I thought, all right. So like, remember, you got a responsibility here. So I said to George Harrison, I said, "Well, that was good. It was cool. But, why don't you tune up and we'll try another. We'll see if we beat it." So everybody was happy with that.
Yeah.
And the lesson that came through was, even if they're your heroes, you got to be honest, but you can practice benign honesty. You don't have to be a jerk about it. Um, and that kind of is how I continued to this day to to work with people that I admire. You got to do your job. You got to tell them the truth, but be nice. Like make them want to keep playing. Don't piss them off. Don't insult them.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it works in making records, and I think you can apply it to everything in life.
It's very good. I like that. I'm not going to forget. Hey, he's not paying you to be a fan. That's
Right?
the truth. That's the truth. You get in your head and you think you have to, pander to them or something. And it's like they want your real honesty. That's why they hired you. They want to
Yeah,
know what you think is, was
yeah, yeah. Um, and still to this day, I'll be blown away by who I'm in the studio with. Every so often it'll occur to me, a couple times a day. I'll go, oh man, that's Keith Richards. What's he doing in my house?
my feeling.
But but then and I think that's healthy. I think it's good to appreciate you, what the good fortune that put you in the room with someone like Keith Richards and allowed you to make music with him and to learn from him, man. I learned so much from Keith Richards. I don't even know where to begin, man. Uh, he showed me what was really important in the studio, and it's not being perfect. It's about uh, playing soulfully and playing with feeling. It's how it feels, not how accurate it is. No one cares about accuracy.
No. And he
Maybe
taught
if
you
you're,
well.
yeah, he really he helped me learn that. There were things. Sometimes it was just by telling me that, and other times it was learning to play. I learned something from him just playing with him. There's a song at the end of Bridges to Babylon. It's called How Can I Stop Once I've Started? It's the very last song on the record. And uh, while he was writing it, it had these great chord changes that runs through it. And he was he's not a guy to sit there and say, all right, now we need to write a bridge. And let's see, if we're in A minor, maybe we'll take it up to C or something. That's not how he works. You play those four chords over and over for hours until something naturally appears. And that's how he is able to get a more honest, less contrived, less formulaic song by letting it appear naturally. But to have that happen, sometimes you got to play for a while. So we were just playing four chords. It's just me and him in the studio. Uh, I was playing a Wurlitzer piano and he was playing guitar, and we just rode these chords for a while. And then the engineers knew anytime one of the principal guys in the Rolling Stones went near an instrument, hit record.
Mm.
So we're playing for a while, and I thought, well, let's go listen to a little bit of that. We go back in the room. I said, play some of that back. And the engineer said, which reel? In those days, it's reel-to-reel tape, and you got 15 minutes per reel, and we'd run through six reels. We played for, I thought it was about 12 minutes. We played for an hour and a half, right? Same four chords. But in that hour and a half, I I stopped thinking, ooh, it's Keith Richards over there. I'm going to play this cool blues lick, and he'll see that I can do that. I forgot about all that and I just stuck to those chords, and it became almost like a mantra. It was like doing TM for an hour and a half. And so I not only felt exhilarated when we finished, but I played better because I wasn't trying to play. I just let it flow, and that's what he does. And it took a graphic real life situation like that for me to understand exactly. But I've played music differently ever since that night.
Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah.
When did you say that was, you think? If you had to guess.
96, 1996 and 95 or 96, mid 90s for sure.
Wow. And I mean, like we said, you saw the Grateful Dead and then you became more of a fan through Bobby and working with him, but you were
Yeah.
always a fan of the Stones, right? Like one of your
Yeah.
first
Yeah. Yeah. I,
music
I went to see
directors.
him in, I saw every tour they ever went on in the United States. I saw them when I was 12. They played at the hockey arena, Olympia Stadium in Detroit, and it was before they were on Ed Sullivan, so no one knew who they were. Someone told me it's like the Beatles, but it's not. It's like, and so I went. My parents drove me down, and there it's a hockey arena that seated like 18,000 people or something like that. They drew about 300 people. That
Wow.
was their first time playing, and then a couple of weeks after that, they were on the Ed Sullivan Show, and they became very well known in this country. But I saw them 3 or 4 times with Brian Jones. I saw them a couple times with Mick Taylor.
Wow.
Uh, and I bought every album new until Voodoo Lounge, which I had in advance because I was working on it.
It's yourself moment, like,
Yeah,
wait, that,
yeah,
that they just gave me because I worked
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah. And then getting to play with them was wild. I mean, there'd be times Daryl Jones couldn't make it, and I'd play, or it would be a rehearsal for the record. We'd be running through the songs, and Daryl couldn't get to town or something like that. So I played, and it was that was a mind-blowing experience too, because people always write about the tension between the principals in that band, but it's overstated, and B, it whatever tension and competitiveness may be there, it absolutely vanishes the minute they start playing. And the musical conversation that goes on, which I think you have to be part of and to fully appreciate it, is jocular and relaxed. They're having fun. Charlie will play a little something on the hi-hat, and Keith will pick up on that and answer it, which will make Mick sing a certain phrasing, and they just keep trading stuff like that. And it's just fun to be in the mix of that. Whenever Daryl would come back, it was better for the music that he was playing bass, but it was really disappointing. I felt like the circus left town without me. Uh, I hated giving up the slot because I just loved playing with them so much. It was so relaxed and uh, and so easy to. Charlie Watts was so easy to play with if you're a bass player, man. He just laid down this big, beautiful pocket. Yeah, I used to liken it to uh, diving. Okay, if you're programming a drum machine to come down exactly on the beat, if you're up on a diving board and you're trying to dive into the pool, that's like trying to dive into like a champagne flute of water from like 50 feet up in the air. You're probably not going to land in it, right?
Right.
That's when everything's perfect. That's what happens. But if you carve a little wider groove, which really means that your bass drum feels it in a certain place. The snare drum feels it in a little different place. The hi-hat feels it in a different place. So you're surrounding the beat, but not landing on it. Then all of a sudden, you got this great big swimming pool to land in if you're the bass player. Anywhere you land in that pocket, it's going to feel good. And that's what was so great about Charlie, was that he could play perfectly if you wanted him to. One time we had him make loops. He played along to the Chronic, Dr. Dre.
No way.
We just play to the song, and we're going to record your drums, and then we'll make a loop out of that, and we can build it back up. And man, he could play to that and never flam on, which is where you hit the drum a little bit off from where the thing. It was all he could lock in. He was capable of playing perfect time. He just knew that was a pointless undertaking. Who needs that? He's not a watch. It's music. It's music with feeling. So his bass drum would be slightly behind the beat. The snare would sit a little tighter to the pocket. And then the hi-hat, which he had a tendency to have on top, but he would leave the two in the he would do this weird thing with the hi-hat playing da 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 do da do as opposed to da 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 da. Right. He'd leave the two and the four open, and he'd have a little motion. He'd throw an extra motion. He'd like lift off the hi-hat. You can see it if you watch concert footage of them. And then that little thing helped him pull the beat back a little bit. So he always had this relaxed groove, like Al Jackson on the Al Green records had. And that was such an important part of the Rolling Stones sound. Charlie Watts was uh, he was every bit an equal musical partner in that band.
It's beautiful. I love that the idea of the diving and liking it to diving and being
Yeah,
able to say that, Charlie Watts let you
yeah,
understand that you could,
yeah.
it didn't matter where you fell as long as you were in that groove, as long as you're in that
Somewhere in that big pocket he carved. Yeah,
groove pocket. Yeah.
yeah,
That's phenomenal. And that really shows like because you are a fan, your appreciation goes so far and deep, and you are checking in with yourself, going, "I can't believe I'm doing this." Probably
hmm
not audibly, but in your own
yeah,
mind.
yeah,
But I believe that being a fan brings this real authenticity, and growing up with these guys, like you said, you bought every record brand
yeah,
new until the one you produced. The first one you
yeah.
produced. Uh,
And
yeah,
you try to if you get that opportunity to play with the greats, man, you it's incumbent upon you to learn something from them. And then once you learn it, you can apply it to everything going forward. We just made this new Pan Detroit ensemble album. This is the first record we've done. It's the first record uh that I ever put my own name on as an artist. This is Down Was in the Pan Detroit Ensemble. And
yeah.
it's coming out. It's actually coming out the night that we play in Chicago, which I think is October 10th.
You got it. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that's the
amazing.
day it comes out.
Cool. That's
It'd be a big night for us, you know. And but I tried as we were making that. It's been a while, since I've made a record as being the artist, and I tried to apply all the lessons I learned from all the great people I got to work with, and hopefully it rubbed off in some way.
I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did. Now, did you guys all recorded together in the same room for this, or was
Yeah,
it
actually, you know something? The way we did this record, three of the songs are live from concerts, and three of them are live in the studio. But we when we go into the studio, we set up the same, which is, by the way, something I learned from the Stones. They set up exactly the way they are on stage, except Mick faces the drums as opposed to facing the audience, right? And and the take is the one where they all play well together. That's
hey,
so it was the same with us. No click tracks, no anything like that. We just play. And on top of that, it's actually all on. We filmed everything, so the shows that the live tracks came from, we have those on film, and we have the sessions on film. But it all happens at once, and there's effectively no difference because if there's improvisation involved, how are you going to improvise without everybody playing at the same time? It's
yeah,
a conversation. You do it together. You do it in tandem. So yeah, it's very much a um, yeah, it's very much what we wanted to do was say, all right, this is our opening handshake. Nice to meet you. This is what we sound like, and uh, and when you come see us next year, it's going to sound even better.
I love it.
I can't wait to see where this band goes. I know this. I really love playing with this band, and I'm going to do it till I drop.
I
So
love it.
I'm as excited to hear what's coming next as anybody.
Yeah, yeah. What's the new record going to be called? Self-titled?
It's called Groove in the Face of Adversity.
Ooh, I love that. I love that.
You want me to tell you the story where it comes from?
Please do.
It comes from the moment I discovered jazz. I was 14. It was 1966. I was driving around with my mom on a Saturday. She had me ride around with her while she ran errands. And man, I did not want to be running errands with my mom on Saturday. I wanted to be at the mall looking for girls with my buddies, right?
I
And so I
know
was
what you want to do.
so I was being a real sullen little jerk as 14-year-olds can be, right? And my mom was disgusted, man. She left me in the car and she left the keys. She said, just play with the radio. I'll go in myself. So I'm playing with the dial, and I landed on a station that I didn't know existed. It was Detroit's jazz station. WCHD was the name of it, sister station of the R&B station. And I tuned in just as a song that I later learned was a Blue Note song by Joe Henderson. It's called Mode for Joe. that came on the radio. And if you listen to that song, about 46 seconds in, he starts a sax solo. And it's just this thing. He's making these kind of anguished cries. It was unlike anything I'd ever heard before. And that's right where I got to the station. And he's playing like, and I heard the anguish in his voice, in his sax. And I thought, oh my God, that's exactly how I feel being stuck driving around with my mom on a Saturday, right? So I could really relate. I didn't know what he was upset about, but I could apply it to what I was going through. And then about 20 seconds in, Joe Chambers, who's the drummer on it, he starts swinging. And Joe Henderson kind of falls into the groove and he goes from these anguished cries into into swinging. And I thought he was speaking to me. I thought he was saying, Don, you got to groove in the face of adversity. Don't sit there and be angry like this, right? And sure enough, man, when my mom got back to the car a couple of minutes later, I was a nice kid again. And this music had really impacted me. It changed my mood 180 degrees in the course of about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And and I knew it too. And that was, I thought, A, I really like this style of music, whatever it is. And and B, uh, I got to remember this lesson. This is an important lesson here. And C, it's pretty cool that music can do that. That this might be a good way to spend your life. So it was like a major moment for me. Little did I know that 50 years later, I'd be running that record company, Blue Note Records, because Mode for Joe is one of our great classic Blue Note albums. Uh, and and now I've called the album Groove in the Face of Adversity, which I think is most applicable to these times.
100%. Wow. Okay. This is feel like you have been making learning lessons your whole life and actually listening to them and trying to build upon your character or your musical self in these ways. I mean, even at
Well,
14 to recognize that, that's kind of a big thing to say. Like, okay, like Joe came down because,
mhm.
Chambers is bringing him there, and
Right.
I
Yeah.
could do that too. I could change my attitude right now, and my
Yeah.
mom's gonna be happier. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be happier.
Yeah.
But it's okay to have that anguish cry. It's okay.
Yeah. No, you got to have it. But uh,
Be
what
able
are you
to
going to do
really
about
connect.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was an important musical lesson again that's applicable to every walk of life. Um, and I think that in chaotic and confusing times, music plays a significant role in keeping people sane. Uh, there's not a whole lot you can hang your hat on these days that's consistent, but music will always be your friend. As long as there are artists who approach it from an honorable uh, point of view, who understand that music is there to teach you and comfort you and make you feel, at least make you feel something. That's what art is there for, right? We, conversational language is such a limited form of expression, and our inner emotional lives run so deep. How do we describe what we're feeling? Conversational language doesn't really do it justice. That's why we have art, because you take those feelings and you put them in another medium so that people can experience it, and that's how you're telling them the way you feel, and hopefully they'll feel something from it too. Maybe not even the same thing you intended, but it'll make them feel something that'll help them understand what they're going through.
Mhm.
I think that's the goal of all art, whether it's poetry, painting, sculpture, music, whatever it is. And I think that's the responsibility of the artist, is to approach people with an open heart and let them know how you're feeling.
Yeah. That's beautiful, Don. Honestly, the complex emotions that we feel, you're right, we can't really put into words
Um,
sometimes. And
yeah.
I think we struggle when we do, when we
Hmm.
try to do that. So
Yeah.
You're right. Every medium, that's really what the artist is trying to do, or that's their responsibility. And I think that's where good art comes from, is that responsibility and trying to kind of just lay it all out. And I think you guys are doing that with this amazing band. I'm so glad that you want to continue this Pan Detroit Ensemble as long as you live. That means
Hmm.
this is you. This is, the last time that you put your name on something was
Yeah.
probably was not was, right? And
Yeah, we had something called Orchestra was, but that even that was 30 some years ago, you know. So
yeah,
it's been a while. But and it's kind of weird to be I'm 73, man. You know, it's weird to be starting from scratch.
I bet.
But it's exhilarating too. It's fantastic, man, you know. There's something that happens, you know, when you get to this age, you can sort of you kind of know the train's pulling into the station and you can see it way off in the distance. And I know like playing with Weir again opened up my mind to so much on the bass and things that you could do that I never thought of doing before. Uh, and I, I want to become as good on that instrument as I can. It's a challenge. Every night you learn something new and it's exciting and you want to keep hitting plateaus. But at this age, I, I I don't have 20 years of good fingers left. Nobody does, right? So I'll hit a point where this is I'll hit my peak of what I can do with the instrument, and then it's a matter of trying to hang on. So I'm 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 trying to get as far as I can with it while I can.
You're doing a damn good job. I mean, to balance all the different things, all the hats that you wear,
Yeah,
and for somebody who never wanted a boss and
yeah.
now, became the boss slash working,
That's one way to do it.
later in your years coming to Blue Note and becoming the president and,
Yeah,
all this kind of big circular cyclical thing that has
yeah,
happened to you and you're recognizing it and paying attention to it, I think is a really good way for you to continue forward and to when that train does go out, you're going on and you're banging and dancing and enjoying it every minute of
yeah,
it. You're
yeah,
really what humanism is what you're doing. You're embodying all that without, like you said, not wanting to have a job, but you've had
yeah.
so many cool jobs.
Yeah,
And
but it's all fun.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, well, thank you. That means a lot. You saying that. And yeah, no, the plan is to show up at the finish line all worn out.
just totally worn out, did everything you wanted to do. It's a beautiful thing. I see
Yeah,
how you're out there lifting medicine balls
yeah.
and
Oh, yeah, yeah,
working out at such an age, and it's like
yeah,
that's inspiration to continue to do it because he wants to do it because he wants
yeah,
to be out there performing. I
yeah,
think you guys are very in tandem in that way.
yeah. Well, you know something that it's whenever I read something about, like it could be about Bobby, it could be about the Stones, like, don't they have enough money yet? Why are they still doing this? Hey, don't you? They have plenty of money. It's got nothing whatsoever to do with money. It's this is what we do, man. And you don't want to stop doing what you do.
No, that's why retirement's such a bitch. This is where I'm.
Well, it's tough. Like I got a lot, that's maybe half the people I went to high school with are retired. And at first I used to say, "What do you mean you're retired? What do you, what, what do you do all day, man?" And they go, "Oh, it's great. I play golf. I do that." And I realized that these are folks who maybe didn't dig their job so much. And like I just went to a high school reunion, a 55th reunion or something like that. And some of the people, everyone's 73. Some of the people look 90, and some of them are about the same as they were when they were in their 40s. And the people who are kind of all hunched over are people who didn't dig their work or didn't find meaning in their work. That's a rough one, when you just feel like it's for nothing. And you don't have to be famous and you don't have to jam with Brian Wilson to find meaning in your work. You can work at a gas station and think, man, I'm I'm pumping gas and keeping the country moving.
Right.
And you are. That's a real thing. There's a point to what you're doing, and it's good for the culture, good for society. And I think you won't, if you have a sense of that, you'll stay healthier and younger. You'll stay younger in mind and body and spirit. Um, it's possible to earn a living and do something you love. If, that's all I ever tried to teach my kids.
Yeah.
They all have, all three of my sons are in music. They're all real good. They're better musicians than I am. But I didn't force them into it. As long as they felt contentment with what they were doing and found it rewarding, I was happy for them.
I love that. I love that. I looked up your kids before we talked to her. I just looked up your family and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's got three boys, is it?
Yeah, three sons. Yeah,
Three sons,
yeah,
all in music. And I'm sure it
yeah.
wasn't like, you boys better do music. I don't see you doing that. I see it
No,
being,
I wouldn't even make them practice, man. I knew better than that. Like that's a good, if any of the listeners have kids
yeah,
who are learning musical instruments, don't make them practice. Let them, let them have that as their escape. That's it's supposed to be the fun part that you want to escape to, and that's when you can actually become a great musician. If you just make them sit there and make it work and make them practice scales that they don't want to do, that then they'll go to something else
yeah.
for release. So if you want them to play music, don't force them to. You play. It's play. You don't work music. You play music. So I never made any of my kids practice, but I left instruments all over the house. It's just like a big hippie house with a million instruments in it, and and I also let them ride the tour bus as little kids. So they'd sit up at 4 in the morning playing video games with the band and everything. That leaves an impression.
That really does. That's a cool dad and a cool mom. I mean, your wife,
Oh, she's great, man.
super
She's a
cool.
Yeah, Gemma. She's our tour manager, man.
She's
She she
awesome. I
she's
love her.
awesome. Yeah,
She's really cool. What is it like to, you see this a lot with husbands and wives working together.
yeah,
One is the manager, one is the musician.
yeah.
Uh, would you want it any other way? Is it a beautiful thing to do this way?
Well, it's great, especially at this at the stage where this band is. We're not going to ride around in station wagons. We uh, but it's tough out there. We got a 9-piece band, and I want to have a nice bus.
Yeah, you deserve
So you need someone who really cares about running a tight operation, or else you just will lose a whole bunch of money and you'll have to stop.
it.
So she's real good at it. But she does come from the music business. I met her because she was an A&R person at Virgin Records in 1983.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I was making a record for her when I was just starting out. And I used to have to call her for money. She was in London, I was in Detroit, and I didn't know her. And she's I thought she was the meanest person I ever met, man, because we were going to spend $150,000 on this record. I was producing a band called Floydjoy, British band, that they sent to Detroit to work with these unknown producers, right? And so we're going to spend $150,000. She was sending it in $300 increments. I said, look, I can't buy tape. She said, well, what did you have for lunch today? I said, well, I don't know. We ordered sushi. She said, sushi? We'll get some bologna and a loaf of bread. But she kept it on budget. But I thought she was like a disgruntled DMV clerk. I just thought she was relentlessly mean. And then I got to the record. I got to England to mix the record and went to the record company. And I had to meet this mean old lady, and she was like, 27. She's wearing a mini skirt up to here and had all this wild blonde hair, and she was happy. And I couldn't reconcile that with it being the person I'd been talking to on the phone. And then it hit me like, oh, she's just really good at the gig. And so she was born to be the tour manager.
You don't know when you talk to someone email, phone, you get an idea sometimes and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's just the way they are. But then you meet
Yeah.
them in person and kind of
But
blow your mind.
I found it to be a real turn on, like someone who's that good at their gig, man. That got me. Truthfully, I was in a bad marriage to somebody else. She was living with some guy, and the night I met her, I said to our engineer, I said, "Man, I'm going to be married to her in 5 years. I know it." And he said, "Oh, you're nuts, man." But within a year, we were living in New York together, uh, and that was 40 some years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
You would have never guessed that before that. You're just like, tell me people voted sandwiches? I never talked to this lady.
No.
Now she's, oh, wow. And all these years later, over 40 years together. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
wow. It's impressive, man. It's really impressive. And it looks like you might have a birthday coming up pretty soon, huh?
I do. September the 13th,
Yeah.
73. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Are you
Mhm.
excited? We got any plans?
I'm planning on I'm going to go to Detroit, and Bonnie Raitt is playing there at the beautiful Fox Theater in Detroit, which is a lovely venue that I love playing at. And it's where I used to, in the 60s, I go see the Motown Review there.
Oh
You
my
go to
goodness.
an afternoon matinee, be half full, and it would be Smokey and the Miracles, the Temptations, the Supremes, and like Shorty Long or something. But just the most incredible show. You can't even believe I can't believe I saw those shows. And that in the afternoon matinee, there'd be 300 people in the audience. So Bonnie's playing there, and I can't think of a nicer way to spend my birthday than going to see her.
That's wonderful. See, look at
Yeah.
this. Just wraps it right back up. Another circle back to,
Yeah.
and that's a great way to celebrate. She was one of your first Grammys, right? That you won?
Yeah.
Get on
Yeah.
record?
Yeah. And she's also, I bought her first record in 1970 when I was, she's not that much older than me. She's a couple years older than me, but I was in college in Ann Arbor at the time, and she played the Ann Arbor Blues and Jazz Festival. She brought Sippy Wallace to sing with her, and man, I was blown away. I just thought she was so good, and then I bought her first album, had the song "Thank You" on it. Such a great record, man. And um, I was a fan, and then 20 some years later, I got to produce her, and it really changed my life. I feel like she and I went through something together where our lives got turned around 180 degrees from the album we made together. And it's like being in the army with someone, you're friends for life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
she like my like a sister to me, man. I love Bonnie.
That's awesome. This is going to be a really good birthday for you then. I'm excited you're going back home.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
yeah, and then you get to go back to Detroit to get just go back to your roots, but then you come back,
Yeah,
you come out to us a month later, your
yep,
record drops just so
mhm,
happens to be when we're at Evanston Space.
yep.
Oh man, we cannot wait for this. It's going to be a really special time, and we'll be celebrating your 73 years young, uh,
Thank you.
too.
All right, well, you know what? We're gonna do this thing that we talked about. But we're gonna second show will be Blues for Allah at that space. Okay.
Heard it here first. WZRD Chicago, Don Was says. I
Good.
love that idea. And I think that's a perfect way, in a marketing's perspective, too, to get people to come out to see the original stuff and
Right.
stay for the stuff that you love and see how you guys
Stick
do.
around. Yep.
Sweet. Well,
Yep.
thank you so much for spending almost an hour, actually an hour with us. That's really, really kind of you.
Yeah, it's always good to see you, Megan. And then thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Oh, always good to see you, Don. I'll see you in like just a month and a half or so. We'll see you.
All right. Look forward to it.
Thanks,
Adios.
buddy.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.